Welcome. I'm Chris. I'm from Transformation Nation Yoga and Wellness. Welcome to Sunrise Yin. This is our sequence related to recognizing our dysfunctional and habitual patterns. What I think you'll need to be safe, to enjoy, and to get the most out of your practice today are a yoga mat, one or two blankets. I like two. One is plenty if that's what you want. I'd like you to have a yoga bolster. If you don't have a bolster, try something with a little bit of firmness, like a couch cushion, and two yoga blocks. So pause your recording, roll out your mat, gather up your props, and when you're ready, press play, and I'll meet you on your mat for sunrise yin. I'd love to have you make your way into a seated position with stacked joints. Take a moment, really consciously and intentionally lengthen through your spine. You'll be pressing down into your seat. Visualize your heart in the crown of your head growing up for the stars. And then see, we've got that, not rigidity, but we've got that alertness in the spine. See if you can find relaxation in every other part of your body. Now, maybe allowing gravity to drape your soft tissues down toward the earth. Let's take a cleansing breath, a deep, deep, life-affirming inhale through your nose. And then on your exhale, open your mouth, make a ah sound. We'll do that one more time. Deep inhale through your nose. Exhale with a ah. If it feels safe and comfortable for you, close your eyes down. But if that doesn't feel appropriate or safe, or you just don't want to do it, leave them open. But see if you can foster a soft gaze with your open eyes. And I would love for you to take the index finger and middle finger of your dominant hand and place that in the space right between your eyebrows. And you don't have to press hard, but maybe make some gentle circles in either direction. It's more a palpitation than a pressing. And then change the direction of your circles. And then as you're ready, you can allow your dominant hand to fall down to your thigh or your knee, but imagine that it's falling through honey. So just a little bit of resistance. And place your attention, you may still be able to feel the sensation of the tips of those two fingers in that space between your eyebrows. And I'd like you to start to visualize an eye there, a third eye. And right now, that eye perhaps is closed. And then up just above and around your head, I'd like you to visualize a cloud of golden white, radiant light. I'm going to talk you through a process here in a moment. And in this process, each time you inhale, I'd like you to visualize that third eye opening and being flooded, filled with light, golden white light from that cloud. And at the pause between your inhale and your exhale, I'd like you to visualize that eye closing. And as you exhale, visualize that golden white light coming from your third eye down into your heart. If at some point during our practice today, it feels like your heart is full of light, that light can also radiate out into the whole rest of your body. So exhale out all your breath. Inhale, third eye opens, it's filled with golden white light, the whole inhale. Close your third eye, exhale, draw that golden white light down into your heart. Inhale, open your third eye, drawing the golden white light. Exhale, pull that light down into your heart. Inhale, eye opens, the light enters. Exhale, the eye closed, the light goes deeper. Continue this visualization in tandem with your breath on your own. And if at some point you lose the practice and you get lost in your thoughts, it's okay. When you get lost, notice that. And then come back to breathing in, drawing in the light, breathing out, pulling the light deeper. Inhale, third eye opens, light enters you. Exhale, your third eye closed, pull the light down into your body, maybe radiating out wider than your heart. Inhale, eye opens, light enters. Exhale, eye closes, light goes deeper. Now I'd like for you to shift your attention to any focal point which is giving you your most provocative sense of sensation. This morning for me, that's hip flexors. But for you, it could be something completely different. And then with your attention on that most provocative point of sensation, as you're ready, there's no great rush, sisters. Gently blink your eyes open, taking in first the room around you, and then the objects in that room. If there are any people physically sharing that space with you, take them in with your eyes as well. And finally, shifting your attention back to your device and taking in the people with whom we're sharing that virtual space. Great job, friends. So the first yin pose of our practice today is going to be dangling. So in vinyasa, we would call this ragdoll. So come into a standing position with your feet hip distance apart. Make the shape of the number 11 with the outside edges of your feet. If your back is tight, have two blocks handy or be close to a wall. Put enough of a bend in your knees, your whole belly will rest on your thighs.
And start to shift a little bit more weight into the balls of your feet, so a little lighter in the heels. Now, options. Your hands could be on blocks. You could put your seat up against a wall too. That can be a much more soothing dangling pose. But check in with your body. Notice if you've got any gripping or muscular engagement. So for many, many people, that's going to be the neck. Making this effort as if we have to look forward. And I know to a degree you're trying to see your device, right? But at this point, there's nothing you need to see. See if you can relax the neck as if there was like a weight on the crown of your head drawing it down toward the earth. So in vinyasa, ragdoll often seems like a really restful pose because we're there a short amount of time, 5 to 7 breaths. But in some of these disciplines and modalities where we hold the pose for a little longer, say yin yoga or gravity yoga, I become acutely aware in this pose of how much actual work is going on. Maybe notice which muscles in your legs are firing. Maybe the muscles in your calves, and the muscles in your thighs. Right, so I mentioned you could have your seat on a wall, you could have your hands on blocks, you could also grab opposite elbows, or you could interlace your hands at the base of your skull, just tractioning a little bit of additional weight, freeing the crown of your head to orient toward the earth. Right, and if your hands are not on the earth or close to the earth, start to draw your hands down to the earth. Lower your knees down, find the tabletop shape. So a quadruped shape, like a child crawling. And I would love for you to have a bolster or some kind of a support close by and 2 blocks available as well. And then from here, I'd like you to walk your hands about 3 handprints forward. Turn your fingers to the outside. If you can, keep your hips floating over your knees. The tendency is they're going to want to scoot forward or shoot back. But see if you can keep them stacked. And then lower your heart down to the earth. Now check in right away. It's yin, so I want you to feel something. But if you're getting a sharp pinching sensation at the tops of your shoulders, I would say at almost any sensation level, take your bolster, place it under your heart, just elevate your heart a little bit. So we're looking for you to feel something here. And that something ideally is a threshold between discomfort and pain. So into the discomfort threshold, but not past it, not quite into the pain threshold. So you might think of this as diffuse pressure or a dull achiness or a bitterness, if that kind of a qualitative measure works for you. Or if you like a numerical scale, think about a sensation continuum from 0 to 10. I'd like you to find a level of sensation that's at least a 4, no more than a 6. Right. Sometimes if we enter a pose with some restraint, we open up some space. So if that's happened for you in your body once more, one option is to take blocks at any height, place them under your hands, and that will give your heart a little bit more lift and a little bit more space to descend toward the earth. But notice if you had that pinching sensation in the tops of your shoulders, that will accentuate that. That's not, we don't want that. Right, so we're going to start to transition out of this. Rather than muscling out, if you would, shift the crown of your head forward toward the top edge of your mat until more weight comes into your forearms. And then bring your hands under your shoulders. You could walk your hands maybe back towards your knees. Grab a blanket. And we're going to do snake and rat, a yoga belly roll. So starting with a blanket with a half fold, go to a quarter fold, and then maybe an eighth. And this might be a good starter with. The more narrow the original shape is, the more sensation you'll get. I'm going to want more, so I'm going to put another half fold in. Start from one end of your blanket, fold toward the other until you get this cylinder shape. So this little metaphorically can of peanuts. Now, if you have a wider roll, so an eighth of a blanket width or less, have the can of peanuts open so the top and the bottom of the can of peanuts are open to the top to the sides of your mat, so towards your right and left hip point. If it's more narrow, you might choose to invert it. And then come into a forearm plank with that blanket under your belly. Relax your belly, soften your belly, let your hips drop down toward the earth. This may be fine here, right? Note that you will probably, at a high enough level of sensation, you will feel your pulse in your belly. It's not hurting anything, it's just weird. But if you're ready to add sensation, just relax the tops of your feet down into the earth. Relax your legs. And if you want even more, stretch your arms out over your head. Lower the whole weight of your body into this blanket. Now note, if you're getting a lot of sensation in the bottom of your rib cage, your blanket's too high. Shift the blanket a little bit lower. I doubt you would break ribs with a blanket, but I've heard of people injuring themselves and breaking ribs using other things for a belly roll. So this is a nice pose to practice surrendering. Once you've got the appropriate level of sensation, particularly if you've got the tops of your feet released to the earth and you release the whole weight of your body down, pressing this blanket back up into your abdominal cavity, there's nothing particularly to do. You don't have to work to maintain the shape. So any kind of muscular engagement that you notice is unnecessary. So see if you can notice that and just maybe choose to release it and let it go. Come back into your forearm plank first. So shoulders floating over your elbows. Press the tops of tuck your toes under your feet. Lift up, remove your blanket. And then lower your hips again. Reach your legs long behind you. Let the tops of the feet flatten onto the earth. Place a block at the highest height on your mat in between your wrists, roughly. And then when you're ready, relax everything. It's still like your shoulders floating over your elbows. We're in Sphinx pose now. But soften your belly. Soften your glutes all the way down to your toes. Even if your ankles roll to the inside or the outside, that's fine. That's fine. Doesn't hurt a thing. If you are neurotically crawling your way forward with your arms, this happens to me in this pose sometimes. Flip your palms up toward the stars. And even the space in between your shoulder blades might slump down toward the earth into the support of the block. I've been slipping into one of my habitual dysfunctional patterns recently over the last 3 or 4 months. And I've noticed it, like I've identified it as what it is. This is like, ooh, this is one of my patterns. It's not, and it's not one of the good ones. It's not one of the ones I celebrate, right? And just trying to figure out like what to do with this. And the pattern is when I take on something new, I tend to like really lean into it and give a lot. And at some point, there's a piece of it that doesn't come easily. It comes really hard. And when I run up against that part that comes hard, I think it's calling me to change something, to shift something. But my ego doesn't want to shift it, right? So I tend to contract and withdraw. And I do this in relationships sometimes. I do this in community. I do it in lots of different ways. And the withdraw is almost like a preemptive strike. I don't want to feel abandoned, right? So I'm gonna leave first. And I just have been present recently to all the like weird different ways that this will manifest and come up. And today it came up for me as jealousy, which I don't love. I don't love. It's not how I would have hoped to have felt about it. All right, friends, check in with your body. Notice your current level of sensation. Check for gripping and muscular engagement first. So in this pose, my habitual offender points for unnecessary muscular engagement are my belly and my booty. So you might notice there, see if you can release. If your body wants more sensation, turn your palms down, turn your fingers out wide. Press into the heels of your hands until the elbows lift up off the earth. And for even more sensation, walk your hands closer toward your waist. So on social media, I'm in a lot of these introvert groups. And so I don't know if you guys have seen the memes, but like there's one, I see lots of different versions of it, but like the gist is, I don't want to go, but I want to be invited. And the jealousy that came up this for me this morning was something like that. So what it was I saw this a notice that this friend of mine is being recognized, getting an award. Somebody who deserves it very much, has worked hard for it, and has done all the right things, and is really deserving. But when I saw it, I contracted around it a little bit. And if I'm honest, what I thought was when I looked into my heart and asked, "What is really going on here?" It was, "Well, what about me?" And then I thought, "Well, how would I feel if I was selected for this?" And I would be mortified. I would be mortified. I wouldn't feel like I deserved it, and I'd be really uncomfortable with that level of attention in this particular community, right? So if I don't want it, like, what do I care who else they give it to, especially if they give it to someone who I care about who very much deserves it? Strange.
friends. If you chose to go into seal pose, to press into the heels of the hands, come back down into Sphinx pose. You can remove your block and lower your heart down to the earth. Tee your left arm out to the side. Tee your right arm out to the side. Tee your right arm out to the side. Place your left hand under your shoulder, and I would love for you to have a block close to your left hand. Shift your gaze over to the left, so maybe your left temple resting on the earth now. You're going to go into broken wing. Start pressing into your left hand. Lift the whole left side of your body. Float it over your right. So you may have noticed, if you like, you could put a bend in your left knee, step your left foot behind your right knee. That's fine. If you want more sensation, I used to cue for a half bind behind the lower back. I'm not doing that anymore. You could, but if you want more sensation, a method that I'm really preferring now is to place a block at any height under your left hand. So what tends to happen with this dysfunctional pattern that I've found is like once I start to withdraw, the other person or persons with whom I'm in relationship respond to that, which often looks like pulling away, which makes me contract and want to pull away more. Right. So this happens. This happened to me a number of times in the last couple of years in community. And the thing is, when this has happened at the times of my life in career or in personal relationships or in other types of communities, it's not my inner circle. It's not the group where, especially like if I'm in a leadership position, that's I've never had that be my response. So it seems to be that I'm fine with being the leader, but being a member I struggle with. Well, what I've like some of what I've identified from this pattern when I look back at outcomes, when I respond in this way, and then the world responds to what I'm doing, like it often puts me in a pretty lonely place, and the outcome is never really good. It's never what I would have chosen for myself. So the recognizing I feel like is powerful, but recognition alone is not going to free me from this. Right? There's got to be some other kind of action. And the truth is, sisters, like sharing the part of which I have understanding, but I don't know what the answer to that looks like. And I'm starting to think that it may be bigger than me. So this is probably going to be an area where I choose to include a professional. All right. If you've chosen to elevate your left hand, bring your left hand under your shoulder, roll back down onto your belly. We're going to change sides. To your left arm out to the side. Place your right hand under your right shoulder. Start pressing into your right hand. Lift your right shoulder, float it over your left. Maybe put a bend in that right knee, step your right foot behind your left knee. Gaze now is to the right as well. So maybe left temple resting on the mat. And option for more sensation to put a block at any height under your right hand. Or again, if you wanted to do a half bind and wrap your right arm behind your lower back, it's fine. It's not wrong. I'm just finding it doesn't do very much for me in terms of sensation. The the thing that I think about, like I kind of led into this with the introvert groups and the different versions of the meme of
I don't want to go, but I want to be invited, right? We want to belong. We have this drive, this really healthy and important need for belonging. Notice I didn't say fitting in, right? Those are quite different from my perspective. We have this need for belonging, but sometimes some stages of the belonging can be really scary for us. And I think when I see those memes, particularly when I see people post those introvert memes, I don't want to go, but I want to be invited. I think I've not seen one yet where I didn't have the sense that whoever posted it recognized how complicated and strange a message that is to the world. Whether we send it directly like that or it is more common, much more subtly through our behaviors and our responses to people. Bring your right hand down to the earth under your right shoulder. Roll back down onto your belly. Whew. And then bring your hands under your shoulders. Press yourself up onto your knees. Walk your hands back toward your knees. So you might choose to have blocks here. Tuck your toes under your feet. And as you walk your hands back to your knees, reach your hands back, scoop that fourth toe and pinky toe back up under. Make sure they're involved in this party. So we're going to do a toe squat. So one version, you could have your hands on blocks. This is a toe squat. This is fine right here. And this can be a really high level of sensation for people. You could come back and bring your hands on your thighs. This is also a toe squat. Or float your head over your shoulders, over your hips, stack the joints. Even here, less sensation looks like lifting the seat up toward the stars. More sensation looks like dropping your seat toward the earth. You guys stay right where you are. I'm going to change positions just for demonstration purposes. And then only if you have stacked joints, float your hands over your thighs by about 3/4 of an inch. Lift your arms up to shoulder height. Good, that's it. Open them out to shoulder width. Bring your hands back into center. Now visualize pulling the moon in towards your heart. Press it back out into the world. And then help it to set into the ocean. Good job, both you honoring your bodies is beautiful. Arms up to shoulder height. Open out to shoulder width. Come into center. Moon for the heart. Moon for the world. Moon sets down into the ocean. One more time. Shoulder height. Shoulder width. You guys adjust your feet as you need to. Take care of yourself. Center. Heart. World. And the ocean. And only if you're doing a Qigong, do a single round of clearing. Circle the hands up to shoulder height. Press the ball down into the bottom of the swimming pool. Great job, you guys. Come onto all fours again. Release the tops of your feet onto the earth. Pedal your feet up. All right, we're going to go into saddle pose. So one option for this is to just sit back on the heels, maybe on 1 or 2 blocks. Right? I consider this to be a saddle, right? And for lots of bodies, if you look at what's going on here, the points where we feel the sensation, usually it's the quads above the knees and the flexion of the ankle. For some people, this is plenty. Or drop the seat down to 1 block, drop it down to the earth. For some people here, like a full saddle, you'll be able to lay back in between the legs. That's not going to happen in my body. So I'm going to make my lazy boy recliner with 1 block at the lowest height, 1 block at the highest height, the bolster over the whole kit and caboodle. And you could do this as a half saddle with 1 leg folded back, 1 leg folded forward. Lower back comes to the bottom of the bolster. So this would be a half saddle, my left leg is extended. Or for a full saddle,
Both legs are folded back, and I lay back onto the bolster. All those versions that I just showed are right. All of them are saddle. So choose the one that's right for you. And I don't know what your experience will be in this pose, and it might be like the variation of this that you choose and the level of sensation it brings you. But for me, the gripping here tends to happen in the hip flexors, which are firing, engaging as if to try to protect me from some harm. So see if you can relax that, allow that to release. Notice what's the quality of your belly. And is it soft or is it firm and engaged? And if it's firm and engaged, see if you can soften. It's the quality of the flesh around your eyes. I feel like sometimes it can be discouraging for us when we are developing our consciousness and we're far enough along that we can see the weird dysfunctional pattern, but not quite far enough along to know what to do with it. But that's why we have therapists. That's why we have communities. I'm looking for a men's group. Like for things like that, I think it would be really helpful. So make no mistake, even if we don't know exactly what to do with it, just the recognition is powerful. So what I know I'm going to do is the podcast interview. My friend I told you about, who was selected for this award, which she's very much earned. Um, I'm going to listen to the rest of her podcast interview, and then I'm going to reach out to her and congratulate her. She certainly deserves it, and I can honor my jealousy at the same time. Check in with your body. Notice your current level of sensation. You don't have to change a thing. If you wanted to add sensation, you could remove the bolster or the block. You could add more sensation that way. Here for me, I'm just going to grab opposite elbows with my arms over my head. That adds a little bit more weight, but it's anything beyond that would be overwhelming. The sensation would be overwhelming. All right, we're going to start the process of coming up from this. So if you're sitting on blocks in between your heels, you can start to come forward into tabletop. Tabletop's where we're going to meet in a moment. If you're folded back, what I found that works best for me, if I place my hands on the soles of my feet and engage my arms, I can lift up till stack joints, and that feels like a really safe place to disengage from my props. In the next pose, I think what I would love for you to have are both blocks close by. As I mentioned, we're going to transition here from tabletop. Step your right foot forward to the outside of your right hand. Maybe scoop the inside of your right hand behind that right heel and ease that right heel forward. Maybe tuck your toes under your left foot. Walk that left knee further back behind you. And I'm going to start with hands on blocks at the highest height and allow my hip flexors to drape down toward the earth. So visualize that left hip flexor, that iliopsoas, reaching for that right heel. No need to push it forward, but just notice if you have any muscular engagement or gripping that's keeping it from going forward. And also note, I queued this up for you at what is probably a fairly high level of sensation. So notice that you can back that off a little bit by walking your right heel back towards you and walking your left knee into center too. Notice if you have any muscular engagement or gripping here. Maybe the deep six lateral hip rotators on the outside of the left thigh. Maybe the inner thigh, hip flexors. With hands on blocks, maybe it's in the shoulder. It could be in your neck. It could be the muscles around your eyes. It could be your belly. All right. For my part in this dragon pose, am learning that I get the best bang for my buck from where we are right now. And there are other options. So one option is if you want to keep the stacked joints in the sense of gravity pushing your hips downward, you just lift your hands up a little higher. But you could also bring your forearms down, fold onto the inside of that right thigh. Forearms might come down to the mat or to blocks. All of those are right. All of those are right. Like, and what is best for my body is probably not going to be what's best for your body. So with yin, as you know, no special breath required. And you can choose to use one if it serves you. So I don't know how much of this you can hear. I'm using a 4-8 relaxation breath with a 4 count inhale through my nose, 4 count inhale through my nose, followed by an 8 count exhale through my mouth with that same ha quality that we started with. This is a pretty high sensation pose for me. And that 4-8 breath really helps me to, I won't say enjoy it, but to not be miserable. Right, if you fold it forward, if you fold it on the inside of that right thigh, lift yourself up first, more or less stacked joints. They won't be perfectly stacked. Start pressing into your right heel, draw your hips back, come into tabletop. And then we're going to change sides. Step your left foot forward to the outside of your left hand. Maybe scoop that left hand back behind that left heel and walk, walk, walk the ball of that left foot forward. Maybe tuck the toes under your right foot, walk that right knee further back behind you. Stack the joints, head more or less over shoulders, more or less over hips. And I like the support of a couple of blocks under my hands. Check in with your body. Notice your current level of sensation. I'm at a 7. I'm going to stay right here, right? But options are lifting the fingers up a little bit higher, or maybe folding forward on the inside of that left eye. All of those are right. All of those are dragon. Check for any gripping, any muscular engagement, and see what, if any, you can let go of, allowing your right hip flexor to fall forward toward that left heel any amount more. Or maybe you're just great exactly where you are. If you chose to fold on the inside of your left thigh, lift yourself up, stack the joints, more or less stacked, head floating over shoulders, over hips. Start pressing into your left heel, send your hips back. Give yourself enough space and slack to come into the tabletop. In our last yin pose of the practice today, I think it's going to be a nice reset where we were too. Bring your big toes together to touch. Bring your knees out wide, maybe wider than mat width apart. Start pressing your seat back toward your heels. Reach your arms even further overhead and lower your head and your heart down toward the earth in a child's pose.
To lift yourself up out of your child's pose. And then from there, make your way into any final resting shape. You may have noticed we did a lot of water element work today. Urinary bladder meridian along the back line of the body, kidney meridian on the inner thighs. So if you want a final resting pose to support that, one option, and again, choose anything, choose what your body's calling for, but a constructive rest position. Come onto your back, bring your feet out nice and wide, let your knees come into center to rest upon one another. And your hands can be palms down on the bottom of your rib cage on either side of your abdomen, or they can be anywhere on the mat. This is one of many, many options, and you should choose the one that's best for you and your body.
Start to draw some deeper breaths. Feeling for the air that you're breathing in, bringing your body back to life. And then begin to reanimate your body with some small movements, maybe wiggling your fingers or your toes, or maybe something with your neck, maybe gently drawing your chin from shoulder to shoulder. And start to transition from small to medium movements. So that could look like rotating your hands at the wrists and your feet at the ankles. And then start transitioning from medium to large movements. So if you're on your back with a bend in your knees, that might look like dropping your knees from side to side, windshield wipering your legs. It could look like a full body stretch. And then as you're ready, make your way onto either side into a fetal position. Take some time here, take 3 or 4 breaths, check in, notice how your body's feeling. But notice too, what is the quality of your nervous system here post practice? And then press yourself up into any seated position with any soft eye, softly open or gently closed. You can do anything that you like with your hands. Thank you, friends, for moving and breathing with me. Thank you for trusting me to guide you through your practice. It means your confidence in me means so much to me. Draw your thumbs to the space between your eyebrows. Blessings to you and your family. And that concludes our practice for today. Again, friends, I'm Chris. I'm from Transformation Nation Yoga and Wellness. This was Sunrise Yin, our sequence related to recognizing our habitual dysfunctional patterns. You're doing great. Keep going.